Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 874 of the Juicebox Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Type 2 Diabetes Pro Tip series from the Juicebox Podcast. Today, Jenny and I are going to talk about your fueling plan, amongst other things. While you're listening, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Please always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. If you're just finding the Diabetes Pro Tip series for Type 2 diabetes, there are other episodes already available. Check them out at Juicebox Podcast or search your favorite audio app or podcast app. If you're looking for some silky sheets or lovely joggers, maybe some nice PJs, check out CozyEarth.com. And when you check out, use the offer code JUICEBOX to save 35% on your entire order. If you're enjoying this series, please share it with someone else who you think might also enjoy it. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Dexcom, makers of the Dexcom G6 and the Dexcom G7 continuous glucose monitoring system. Dexcom.com/juicebox. The podcast is also sponsored by the Contour Next Gen blood glucose meter. You want a glucose meter that is easy to hold, easy to read, accurate, and offers second chance test strips. If that's what you want, and I think that is what you should want, you want the Contour Next Gen blood glucose meter. ContourNext.com/juicebox. All right, Jenny, we are here today to add to our Type 2 series.
Yay.
And today we are going to discuss a fueling plan, which you taught me in the other episode not to say diet, and I didn't even think to say diet, so I'm pleased to say that I'm learning.
You didn't have big signs in front of you
I
that
didn't.
were like, don't say diet.
I didn't. Actually, I thought, we're going to talk about eating today. And I went into my little note and I noted that I was going to talk about fueling plan. I just wrote down fueling plan. I was like, oh, look at me.
Awesome.
I'm learning.
Look at you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So let's, I guess, just broad scope. It doesn't really matter, right? If you're a person who may not have been eating well prior to your type 2 diabetes, or you were eating great and you got it anyway.
Anyway.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What you're going to eat moving forward to help yourself is going to be the same one way or the other. Does that make
Could
sense?
be.
Yeah. Ish. Like
Yeah.
It's not like I'm saying that what's it going to be about? So if I'm coming in, I mean, let's just break this down. If I'm coming in with type 2 diabetes and a weight or
Right.
type 2 diabetes and no weight issue, then the person with no weight issue is just going to check to make sure they're not eating foods that are driving their blood sugar up.
Correct. In this example, it's a good example. The person who doesn't need some loss just needs to maintain and stabilize, and also now has to watch what's happening to their blood sugar levels. It's more a look at what you've been doing that's maintaining, and then shifting some of the things maybe out, or maybe portion needs to change in one place versus another, or maybe it's a changeover of these types of foods versus these types of foods, right? Similarly, in the person that needs or could benefit from some loss to get more to an optimized weight, for their own body and for their activity level, theirs might be a shift of kinds of foods as well, but it's definitely, they need also some portion navigation for that.
Okay. I mean, I think this is universal across good health, not just diabetes, type 1, type 2.
Absolutely.
Right. And we're going to try, for people who don't know, I think to my mom, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
my mom was told she was pre-diabetic, and then she told me all the things she was going to eat. and I was stunned. I was stunned by how many of them had like she let me be clear. She said to me, I'm going to eat low carb. That's the thing she had heard somewhere. I don't know if the doctor said it to her or whatever, but she's like, I'm going to eat a low carb lifestyle. And then she listed all these vegetables that had a significant amount of carbs in them. And I thought, oh, my mom doesn't know the difference between what has carbs in it and what doesn't. Like, she had some of it right and some of it wrong.
Correct.
Right. And so can you just help for a minute? Like, can you, like, just out loud put a meal plan together for somebody and talk about some of the foods that you could be looking at?
Yeah. I mean, it's the easiest, I think. And unfortunately, the plate method, right, that was put out by the USDA so that everybody knew what they were supposed to be looking at on their plate. I think the plate method actually is a very good idea for somebody starting out who's really trying to revamp and may have gotten the idea, well, I have to go low carb, but what does that mean? Right. And there are so many different ways to do low carb, but the plate method's easy because if you just imagine sitting down with your plate, you're going to put on it more of the foods that have a low impact on your glucose level. And half of your plate then should be filled with what we call non-starchy vegetables. And for your example with your mom, she thought, well, I'm going to do a low carb diet. But maybe she thought just vegetables in general were low carb, right? They're unprocessed. They're, unless you've bought them with a whole bunch of sauce or something on top of them, they're pretty clean food, right? But there is a difference. Non-starchy means that they don't contain a lot of natural sugar. All vegetables do contain some kind of natural carbohydrate to them. Some have a lot more than others. So if you fill half of your plate with these non-starchy vegetables being your greens, I mean, they're a powerhouse of nutrition. I'm not talking like, iceberg lettuce. You can eat all the iceberg lettuce that you want. You're not really getting a heck of a lot of good nutrition there. But it's a filler. So you're talking about the dark leafy greens or like the nice spring mixes and those kinds of things. You're talking about broccoli and cauliflower and, cabbage and cucumbers and mushrooms and onions and peppers and even the summer zucchini or the yellow squash. Those are non-starchy vegetables. Green beans and that kind of stuff.
And an easy Google search would be low glycemic vegetables, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be great.
That's the way you can kind of start. Now, also, there are people who go all vegetables for type 2, right? That's a legitimate plan as well, right? Like instead of like low carb, which you think of as more as like protein and fat, there are some people who go like none of that and they have similar successes sometimes as well.
It's interesting. The more plant-based vegetable kind of plant-based food that you eat, they are really filling. Mm-hmm. So you can eat a fair amount of them. And because they are non-starchy, you don't get a major shift or a major bump in your blood sugar compared to sitting down and eating something like, unfortunately, a starchy white potato.
Right.
It's going to have a big impact on your blood sugar.
So that's part of that plan when you go all vegetables for type 2 diabetes, that you're just very full and you're not taking in a ton of calories and carbs because there's
caloric load goes down because there's bulk.
Okay.
Exactly. Now, is that all around well-rounded? It's not.
Okay.
I mean, if we're talking about healthy, nutrient dense and not necessarily calorically dense, then we do need a balance. And so that's why I think the plate method is a really nice place to start, because you can get a wealth of non-starchy vegetables on your plate. And then you can also, the other half of the plate, really good lean quality protein sources. From whatever, whether it's fish or chicken, or maybe you love tofu or you're vegan or whatever, there are a lot of really good low glycemic protein sources, even beans and lentils. While they do contain carbohydrate naturally, it's downplayed based on the fiber and also the protein that you're getting with it. So
also hydration still very important with type 2, like type 1, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Same. Hydration is I think it's a forgotten thing for a lot of people, regardless of diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
You might carry your water bottle around during the course of the day and, sip on it or whatever. But yes, we need to drink water, and it's very important with type 2.
Part of the reason I like my green drink is because it also comes with me right away in the morning drinking 12 to 16 ounces of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
I noticed that that's better. Okay. So here's what is rattling around in my head. Like, that's all well and good. Right. Like,
can I say something before
please,
you?
Please.
Can you remember your idea that you were going to go forward with?
I got it right here.
Because your green drink in the morning sort of made me think of the idea that vegetables for many people are just a dinner time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you include them in other parts of your day? Absolutely. You do like a greens-based thing in the morning time. It's a powder, you mix it in, it's easy, you get it down right away. You could also do something similar by getting vegetables for breakfast and putting it in a smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a lot of quality nutrition that way in not a very heavy calorie dense package. Things like spinach and baby kale and celery and cucumbers, they all mix really well, along with, lower glycemic fruits, which is the next thing. Things like your berries and kiwi and apples, and they're all much lower in impact. So popping that into a smoothie, it's a good way to sneak some vegetables in.
Most of what you just listed would go in any high-end scrambled egg too. Like if you go to a nice hotel, right, they'll throw broccoli into your scrambled eggs, or greens, things like that. There's other places. Mushrooms. Mushrooms are a good one. Am I right?
I love mushrooms. Yes.
Every time I make anything, I put mushrooms with it because, and here's why, Jenny, I don't eat a lot of vegetables. I do the green.
Really?
I'm not a vegetable person. It's a texture thing for me. I can't do them the way they and listen, we can go into it if you want. I don't think there's a lot of need for it here, but I grew up kind of broke, and there were a lot of canned nasty vegetables given to me. Like here's
corn,
like French string beans, like French. Like, nah, these taste horrible. And then I was parented in a way where you're not getting up till you eat it. And then I was a very stubborn person. So there were times where for breakfast, I would get cold green beans from the night before, and they'd be like, eat them. And I'd be like, no. And I would like physically like gag on them.
Yeah.
And so now I'm wired wrong about vegetables now through bad parenting. And my dad's dead and my mom's really old. She'll never hear this. So they did a bad job and then made me hate vegetables. So I put them
But you like mushrooms.
I like it's the weirdest thing. Because
maybe it's because you're a fun guy and they're fungi. I don't know.
My wife's always like, you don't like the way it feels in your mouth, but mushrooms are okay. And I'm like, yeah. I like onions,
and they're very good for you.
Yeah, listen. I love them. I always have like a big bushel of them in the refrigerator. But like, I'm looking at this list, and if you put me in this situation, I'd be like, I don't see carrots. I think of carrots and I'm like, ugh. Like, I don't know why, because texturally they're like potatoes, which I can do
if they're cooked.
Right? A cold carrot I can't do. As soon as it splits apart, it feels waxy, or I don't know how to describe it. Like, when it flakes off, I'm like, it's in my mouth. So
you are so funny.
I'm a child.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Like, and so I everything on this list I've tried. Eggplant.
And you don't particularly
I can't get past the texture of it. So I do.
Can you sneak it into things like, and this isn't, tip wise, if there are other people who are like, I can't really do that. Well, can you sneak it in and make like a zucchini lasagna? Again, get rid of the noodles, slice up the zucchini. It cooks and becomes very soft, similar to noodle.
Let me tell you, I'm going to do that this weekend. I've never tried that before. I'll try that.
Oh, it's so good. I'll send you a recipe.
Thank you. That I will definitely try that. Salad, this is so embarrassing. Jesus. In a restaurant with my wife, 7-8 months pregnant with our first kid. In the afternoon, we'd just gone to like a OB appointment. So we were kind of like wild and free in the middle of the day, nothing to do. And we went to this restaurant. I can picture where I was sitting. And I said, I'm going to order a salad. And my wife goes, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a salad. And she's like, you don't eat salad. I said, it goes beyond that, Kelly. I've never had salad. I'm like, I'm going to try a bowl of lettuce with things in it now. And I choked it down because I wanted to be a better role model for my kid.
Sure.
And I taught myself to eat salad when I was like 25 years old. You are also talking to a person who was not taken to a dentist as a child. I really grew up like an animal.
You really did. Yeah.
I'm not lying.
I'm sorry about that.
We were broke, and that's just how it went, you know? And so I taught myself to eat a salad. I like tomato sauce. I have trouble with I can't eat a tomato.
And that's another one. It's just like the mix it in, figure out how to get it stuck in there someplace. Soups are another really good one where, and especially pureed soups, you can hide a lot of things. So if you like tomato sauce and it has to be really, really, really smooth, you could put a whole bunch of stuff in it. You could put carrots in there.
Yep.
You could probably put green beans in there, although I don't know what it would do to the flavor. And get a really good high power like a Vitamix kind of thing, let's say. You can puree it down and you'll never know what was in there as long as it's still got all the seasonings that you want from a marinara sauce.
Saying I could put pureed carrots into a tomato sauce and I would never know they were in there. Hold on. Yeah. I'll make a note about that too.
Again, I mean, you're not going to put 20 carrots in with one thing of tomatoes and have it taste like tomatoes, but
more than I was going to get if I didn't throw a carrot in there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because even like I know I can cook peppers. I know that I must sound like I'm 4 years old, but I can cook peppers down into things and eat them.
Yep.
But if you made like a stuffed pepper, my wife likes turkey stuffed peppers. I can't do that.
You can't do that.
No, because the pepper gets kind of like, I feel like I'm arguing against myself here, but the pepper gets like soft and weird, and then I don't like the way it bites.
It's a texture.
Yeah.
It's a texture thing for you, definitely. What about roasted vegetables? Like if you pan roast them in the oven, like onions and mushrooms and peppers and those kinds of things, if you have a good oven or you have something that you can kind of like char broil them with the right seasoning, sometimes that's enough of a flavor that you're okay with what it is.
Yeah, I tried that with broccoli, but then the broccoli breaks down into those little round things on the flour.
Florets.
Yeah, whatever. Jenny, listen, it gets in my mouth. They're everywhere. And I'm like, why is this happening? But I'm outing myself today because I'm going to make these quick for you. There are CGMs and BGMs. A CGM is a continuous glucose monitor, and that's what Dexcom makes, the Dexcom G6 and brand new Dexcom G7. These devices will allow you to see the speed, direction, and number of your blood sugar. Just think about that. I mean, in context today, we're talking about type 2 diabetes. Imagine you eat something and your blood sugar starts to go up, or it doesn't. Or it goes up quickly and then comes back down. How would you know any of that? With a Dexcom, you will know. You will see it happen right in front of you on your receiver or your Android or iPhone. It's crazy how far these technology has come. My daughter is wearing a Dexcom G6 at the moment. She'll be switching to a G7 very soon. I know somebody personally wearing a G7 and they're having a good old time of it. So you can check it out and see what you think. Dexcom.com/juicebox. What I'll tell you is there is no better way to make decisions about your medications and your food than being able to see how food and medication impacts your blood sugar. And you can see that with Dexcom. Dexcom.com/juicebox. Of course, the podcast is sponsored today by the Contour line of blood glucose meters as well. Their latest, the Contour Next Gen blood glucose meter, is highly accurate, and you're going to like it. contournext.com/juicebox. Head over and take a look. See all their meters, read about the test strips, learn what it means that they offer a second chance. I'll tell you right now, if you touch blood but don't get enough, you can go back and get more without ruining the accuracy of the strip or the strip itself. And that's a big deal. It's not to say that the strip needs a lot of blood. Just, you could fumble around with it or touch it and drop it or whatever. I don't know what happens to you. And you can go right back and finish up lickety split like it never happened. contournext.com/juicebox. While you're over there, check out the buy now button. There are a number of places online where you might be able to buy the meters and test strips cheaper in cash than you're currently paying with your insurance. I know that's strange to think, but it's worth looking into. contournext.com/juicebox. Dexcom.com/juicebox. Links in the show notes. Links at juiceboxpodcast.com. I made it through a lot of my life without eating vegetables. And
Sure.
I would supplement where I could, but obviously it's not enough. Even the green drink is great, but it's not the same as eating this food, right? And
and you bring up a good point there. Eating the food, it's just like we say with sugar from fruit. Eat the fruit, don't drink the juice. Because on a blood sugar level, what's it going to do differently to your blood sugar, right? Yeah. So it's the same thing from a nutrient level. You're getting good stuff from your greens, but on a digestive level, you're not getting all the advantage of your body breaking it down and pulling things out and getting the digestive fiber benefit. So,
yeah. I mean, now, having said all that, this week, I have never been happier than I have been this week. I went to the Costco and I bought 4 steaks. And I cook them with a light seasoning, and then I refrigerate them. And when I get hungry, I slice a few slices off, right? And I pick at them. I cooked already to go with them shrimp. I sauteed some shrimp in mushrooms. And so like my lunch today is I'll take probably 4 ounces of steak, put it with like 2 shrimp and a mushroom, and I'll just like eat that, and that'll be my lunch.
Yum.
Yeah. And that, because I'm putting myself in the position of the people listening, I'm thinking like, if I got type 2 diabetes and you showed me this list of vegetables, I'd be like, uh-oh, I'm going to die.
Especially if you're not used to even eating some of them. Like you're starting in a very lean amount of vegetables that you would even consider trying to put into your diet. There are many people who already have vegetables in their diet, but maybe it's in such a small portion that it's not the wealth of what they should be eating, right? They might be doing a plate full of mashed potatoes and maybe a side of green beans. They should be flipped around.
Yeah.
Green beans, good dinner salad, whatever is the wealth of the plate, along with a nice, healthy, lean protein source. And then maybe the rest of the plate, something like lower glycemic, if you are still going with some type of a grain, or maybe you want to definitely include fruit. Again, from a nutrient dense quality, fruit is excellent. It's just some is higher glycemic index, meaning higher, quicker impact on blood sugar compared to others. Your lower glycemic are definitely the berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, blackberries. Typically the green apples are the leanest in terms of like carb impact. Kiwi fruit, interestingly, as well.
Really?
Some of the pears. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think that people need to understand, like, even though I'm as anti-vegetable as a person could be, still when I scroll down this list, I can find 5 or 6 things on here I'd be happy to eat.
Sure.
And it's just the big picture. It's psychological for me. Like, I think of like, I smell peas and I don't want them. I feel carrots in my mouth when I think about carrots. Green beans, I feel them stuck in my throat when I think about them.
I can understand the pea one, because I will only eat real podded peas.
Okay.
Like, take them out of the pod yourself and eat the pea, like fresh peas. If they have been frozen, if they have been canned,
then
I can taste that in my mouth.
Right.
You can see me, right?
Yeah.
I get where you're saying you can get that in your mouth and you're like, nope, totally not going in.
And I do think that that's part of it. I think the preparation of the vegetables that were given to me as a kid really stuck to me, because I have prepared things at home. When I'm teaching myself to eat it, I might end up with a little Parmesan cheese over top of it to try to get it in. You know what I mean? But I could do better. Like, I really could. But what I'm thinking that people need to hear is that if you're looking for a place to start, it's boxed, bagged cookies, cake, flour, right? Like these are the
We're
things.
talking processed
Foods, right?
Right. That's the best word for it, honestly. And, sometimes too, we also have to consider the grand majority of people with diabetes have type 2 diabetes, and it reaches all level of people, whether someone's starting out with a diagnosis in kind of the realm of where you grew up without a lot of money. So they may be on a very tight budget about what they can do. There might be people who can absolutely afford to be improving their intake, right? And there are some really good resources. I have a book that was put out quite a while ago by the ADA. It's Diabetes Meals on $7 a day or less. So from that aspect, it gives you kind of grocery lists. It gives you how to pick and choose some things, how to put meals together. Sometimes adults diagnosed with type 2 haven't been cooking. And, again, this isn't like a shame or a blame or anything, but this is just the way that it is. This is how busy we've gotten in life. And the more, as you said, the more processed, the more packaged the food is, the potential for those increase in ingredients that you can't read when you look at the label, the impact on blood sugar can be something that then you can't figure out.
I did something interesting. I Googled processed food examples, but I went to the NHS in the UK for my return instead of America, just in case there's any like corporate pressure on the list that we might find in America.
Okay.
Food processing can be as basic as freezing, canning, baking, or drying. So that's what they're saying. They say, what counts as processed food? Breakfast cereals, cheese, tinned vegetables. I guess they mean canned vegetables. Bread, savory snacks such as crisps, so chips, sausage rolls, pies, pastries, meat products like bacon, sausage, ham, salami, or a pate, a microwavable meal or ready-made meals, cakes and biscuits, drinks even like milk or soft drinks. It says not all processed foods are a bad choice. Some foods need processing to make them safe, such as milk. So yes, milk is processed, but not in this category.
And I think that's actually a really good description. And I'm glad that they emphasize that processed doesn't necessarily mean poor quality. Like in my cupboard, sure, I have processed foods. It's things like canned beans, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take me an entire 24 hours to soak them. So I buy beans that have already been soaked for me so I can easily use them.
Well, think about this even. Have you ever seen low salt bacon? Jenny, do you ever buy bacon?
We don't eat bacon.
Okay, well, there's low salt bacon. Let me just skip over the part where you've never looked at bacon before. There's low salt bacon. Well, every time I see that, I think, well, what is that, a healthier pig? No, they salt the other bacon. And that's what they're saying here is processed foods, what can make them less healthy? Extra ingredients like salt, sugar, fat that are added to the process. And buying processed foods can lead to people eating more than the recommended amounts of sugar, salt, and fat because you're not even aware you're getting them.
And that's really those three: sugar, salt, and fat. They are something that the food industry has absolutely clicked into in order to hook people on the non-preferred processed foods.
Right.
Well, it is. They put them in together in the right amounts in the foods. And it's the reason that you can't just eat one potato chip.
Yeah. No, it's not your fault when you're like, oh my God, these are amazing. Like salt, fat, like you might as well be saying like crack, heroin,
absolutely,
nicotine, like things that you get and you're like, oh, your body's like, do that again. And
yes, they're addictive.
Yeah. And I think too, it's a modern society, right? Like obviously there are so many people on the planet and this is the way we have so far figured out to feed everybody. And, you could make the well, everyone's alive and they're not hungry like they used to be. But look at all these people who have type 2 diabetes and, you know, other things that are happening to people's health that we're sort of like, that's odd, you know, and
right.
And so you're going to have to, I mean, you're going to have to put some effort into it because you're basically dodging the way people hand food to you. Back in the 50s, where you made cookies once a month.
Right.
Okay. And now we just have we have so much, there's such a, everybody stop and think right now. Could you make pasta in your house right now? Yes. Could you make a cookie from scratch right now? You have all those things.
Yes.
You know, it's too in your face, and
it is,
you know, and it's, I'm missing the word, but it's just omnipresent.
It is. And I think it is because we've also it's become a part of every social encounter, like a business meeting today. Yes, even food. On the highest corporate level, there is always food, always. And you can't get away from it. And so you end up sometimes, honestly, from the mental standpoint, you end up feeling like the oddball out. If you're always like, no, I'm just going to have the cup of coffee, or I'm just going to have a cup of tea, or I'm just going to drink my water, you know, or I've got my own lunch. Yeah. You get the look like you've got 4 heads. Yeah. Because you brought your packed lunch.
Jenny brought her own food.
Right?
What do you think's wrong with her? She's healthier than the rest of us. No, I mean, you and I have had dinner together before. Yeah. And I've seen you just pass something by. Just, I don't want that, thank you. And
I don't need that, thank you. Yeah.
I just think that look, you're going to go to the doctor, right? We already talked about in previous episodes, you're going to run into a lot of roadblocks. Understanding type 2, getting on, medications if you need, understanding insulin if you're using insulin. But then this happens. To me, this seems like the linchpin here. This is the hardest part. I imagine for most people, this is the hardest part. I eat in a certain way because I'm programmed to, because this is how I grew up doing it. I'm partly, shared my story about the vegetables because I'm a reasonably intelligent person. I should be able to put a green bean in my mouth. But there's a 7-year-old boy being yelled at a table somewhere who's like, that makes me gag. And so, and so whatever your thing is, that when you stop and look at your cupboards, you go, no, I have to have that. That's part of holidays. People associate holidays with a certain food. Yeah. There's so many damn holidays that if you try to better your health, you can't, because you're like, well, I'll just do it after. Because
they roll into each other.
Yeah, I'll do it after New Year's. Well, then Christmas. Well, then we'll wait until New Year's. Okay, well, but Valentine's Day, I'm going to want chocolate. So we'll probably, Irish potatoes. Hold on a second. I can't, because in March, it'll be, Easter. Jelly beans. Right. I'm really going to want jelly beans in Easter. So I'll be fine until, 4th of July. Well, I don't want to start then. And it just doesn't stop.
It doesn't. And I think you're bringing up something that also means you have to consider that there isn't a all or none principle. I think that gets people into trouble. There are some people that can do that. They can say, you know what? I've seen what this does. I'm good without it. I can just totally give this up. And I can do, just like you said, I can do just the vegetables and maybe grilled chicken. And I'm good with that. I'm not living to eat, right? I'm taking in the fuel, which is the energy for our body, because my body needs it. It's a necessity. But for the majority of people, we need a little bit of a give and take. Yeah. How much give should we have in the picture? So in terms of a plan, 80-20, 90-10, as you bring up each of those holidays, right? We've got something in October. We've got something in November. We have some type of something in December. And depending on how you celebrate the beginning of January, and then February rolls around. And like you said, March, and then April, depending on if you celebrate Easter or anything within that, it's never ending. And then of course we got the 4th of July. There's only a couple of months in there. There's really not a food-based something, maybe.
It's the summertime, and then it's ice cream and things that everyone,
barbecuing,
everyone associates with. By the way, barbecuing, interesting. People are like, meat, that's healthy. Yeah, okay. And it's if you dry rub your beef, that's great. If you throw a big sauce over top of it, you're licking a block of sugar, and that's why it tastes so great, because it's And so you have to, like, everyone listening is going to just have to decide. But
Right.
I think they should also understand the rest of it. And I think that's the problem with type 2 is that it comes on, we talked about it earlier, it comes on so slowly that it really just feels like I could probably just stay 2 steps ahead of this and I'll be okay.
Right.
Right. And the truth is, it will, I mean, for most of us, it's going to catch you if you don't
Correct.
do something.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Which is, like I said, that's why a little bit of I can do this, but the majority of the time, I really need to focus on doing this. So let's take each month of the year. Let's say that there is something, right? You have to make a decision and say, okay, I'm going to really celebrate here. And the celebration is a day. Okay. What's a day out of 30 days? Right?
Yeah.
You're not even looking at like 10% of the month. You're looking at much less than that of being able to, if you really like grandma's frosted sugar cookies at Christmas time, then go ahead and do that. Or, right?
Yeah.
But the majority of the time is what's going to have the wealth of impact overall.
How long do you think it takes to change a habit? Like do you have a thought about it? Because there's some people say it's 2 months. Some people say it can take up to like 250 days to change a habit. And I've seen, I've seen a person do a fast and at the end of 7 days be like, I feel amazing. And not like a fast, like no food, like it's a nutrition fast. Like, so you're taking in nutrition still. Anyway, at the end of 7 days, they're like down 15 pounds. They feel amazing. Now they have food cravings. They're like, I miss this and I miss that. And they start off well with eating like, things. They're like, oh, this will be great. But then it's like a week later and something happens, an event or stress hits or something like that. And it turns into a potato chip. Then the salt hits them and they're like, woohoo, here we go. Like it really is like watching an addict, like pick a cigarette back up again or something like that.
Yeah.
And so is there good science on how long it takes, or there isn't really to read?
It used to be, and from what I know now, it's more of a myth, honestly. It used to be said that it takes 3 weeks to make a habit or 21 days to form a habit. And honestly, it was disproven a while ago.
Okay.
I think what you said about 2 months is about the statistic that was actually kind of re-put out there. So in general, a habit means that you are making a conscious effort in the change time. It may mean that it's hard for you to do that every day. Once it becomes like the end of the night, I always bring up like brushing your teeth. The end of the night comes, that's your routine. You don't even often like think about it. It's just you head into the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you get in bed, and you kind of have this routine, right? It rolls. At the point of which you easily go to the grocery store, or you easily write your grocery list, or you easily pick something that you know is really good for you from a restaurant menu, and it didn't take effort to do that, you've got a habit formed. And sometimes it takes effort even beyond that. Once you've gone on a vacation and you've gotten out of your habit, you may have to reignite that habit again.
Yeah.
Right?
When we talk about how like money can impact what people buy, we're usually thinking people who have less money are forced to buy more processed food, which I think is true. Like, I think it's cheaper, although food prices lately, nothing's cheap. But I also think if you have too much money, then it also feels like there's a decadence to it. Like, I could just buy this. This is $5. It means nothing to me. You know what I mean? Like, and now I have a bag of candy around, or I bought a block of chocolate because it's fancy, or like there's, you have to, there used to be this thing that I would buy when I went to the grocery store. It was like this little junk food thing. And I realized it was as I got older and I started making more money, I was like, I can afford this thing that I couldn't afford as a child. And then I would buy it sometimes and not want it. But it was just me being like, look, I can afford this.
I can have it.
Yeah, I can have this if I want to. And so there was a day I realized that, and I told myself, I'm like, you will never buy that again when you go in that store. Like, it doesn't matter if you want it or don't want it. You're going to make like a conscious decision to never purchase this thing again.
Right.
And nothing to do with your life or nutrition or anything like that. And that's one of the ways I started teaching myself to make changes. I just picked something completely banal, and I was like, all right, this again. For any context, it was like a little like sugary candy, like that's
right.
Just something silly.
It kind of goes along with how much tracking, right? A lot of people are also told, well, track your intake to kind of figure out exactly what you want to change. Tracking initially might be great if you're starting with a list of what you're doing, picking off of it and saying, well, I could probably change this. I could transition this into this, and this would be better. Economically, it works out about the same. I think budget is a big thing. If you know how much you have to spend on something, you can often see that going to the grocery store and buying a bunch of stuff and preparing multiple meals is actually less expensive than buying the stuff from the restaurant.
Yeah.
It can be.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think in terms of evaluation, you have to know what you're doing that requires an adjustment. You can't just make an all over change without deciding I have to get rid of some stuff too.
Well, it's overwhelming too. And making a big change is difficult for anybody. And oftentimes people will say, well, it's not just me, there are other people in my house.
Right.
And so I can't just, but you know what? You can, because there are times when people are like have like harsh, like celiac disease, for example.
Correct.
People will like be like, all right, that's it, everybody. We don't eat gluten anymore because Billy's head falls off when we eat it. So we're all just going to stop. And it turns out
more like his belly falls out.
But it turns out you can if you need to. Right. And so you have to decide, like, it has to be a thing where you need to do it. And you have to know. And that's why I'm trying to say, like, gently, but kindly, you're not going to outpace type 2 diabetes for your whole life. It is going to catch you. And when it catches you, you are going to be surprised at how quickly your health deteriorates in a myriad of different ways.
If you don't make a change and make a habit of making that change.
Yeah, you can't just act like it's going to be okay. It's not a thing you can ignore into oblivion. So
no, it's not. And unfortunately, again, with the sheer lack of education and information from the get-go, again, there's not really a blame component to what people are lacking doing until, of course, they've been given information and then just decide not to be able to do something with it. Right. I mean, if you've been told something and it makes sense to you, not that I didn't really get that. Okay, then ask more questions. But if you really did get it and you're just choosing to not do it, then that is on you.
No one's going to be able to help. I'll say this. I think bringing back up butter, fat, salt, and modern cooking, just using it like magic to make things taste freaking amazing. You
Absolutely.
know? And then you are hooked on it. I don't care if you realize it or not. Like, you can get addicted to sugar. You can, eating that makes you want more of it. Like that whole thing. So I know that can feel like, well, look, someone tricked me into it. It's not my fault. And maybe it isn't, but the outcome's still going to fall onto you. And what I would say here is, when I found my youngest brother, I don't know how obvious it is to people if you listen enough, but I raised my brothers. So when I was 13, my father left, my mom went to work, and my brother we were all 5 years apart. I was 13, my brother was 8, my other brother was 3. Oh. And for large portions of the day, it was me, right? And I didn't do everything right because I was 13. Obviously, I didn't know what I was doing. But there was this time where I saw my youngest brother, not when he was 3, years later.
Right.
He was smoking cigarettes. And I pulled him aside and I said, listen, somewhere right now, there are 20 rich people sitting in a boardroom laughing that you buy cigarettes. And I was like, do you want to give them that satisfaction? They're going to kill you to take your money. And you are just going to be okay with it? I was like, I wouldn't smoke them just to say f you to them, if for no other reason. And I do think that about some of this food sometimes. Like, it is everywhere. It is plentiful. It is in bags that are just too big. Like, I grew up at Easter time. We used to get these shitty jelly beans. And when I made a little more money, I bought better jelly beans. And for anybody listening, Just Born jelly beans are the best jelly beans. I don't care if you agree or not. I'm right.
I don't know that I've ever seen that brand.
It's the company that makes the Peeps,
Oh, really?
but they make jelly beans, the best jelly beans.
Okay.
So every year I would get myself a small bag of jelly beans and have them throughout the month. Well, then one year, these motherfuckers, they make a 5-pound bag of these jelly beans. 5 pounds. Oh my goodness.
Who needs 5 pounds of jelly beans?
They were only $9,
Gina. Stale by the time you get to eat them all.
They were only $9. The 1 pound bag was $3. It was a no-brainer.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And I just think when you see something like that, you should look and think, I'm not buying that. You're not killing me to take my $9. You know?
You're right. And the standpoint behind it, like I said earlier, is that their goal on a broader sense, anybody that's manufacturing the majority of the true processed food, not like canned beans, right? It is to get you to come back and buy more of it. Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, that's the goal. So you really are, like you told your brother, you're feeding a corporation that's really not doing anything beneficial for your body.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at some point you just have to say, I'm not going to be a part of your silly game where you end up with a bunch of money and I end up dead. So
I'd rather give my money to Farmer Joe down the road, who's going to give me, well, maybe mushrooms for you, but green beans,
listen,
right?
I think about it as a savings plan. Every time you look at something that you know is going to hurt you, put that money in an envelope instead, you know? Right. And I don't know. Here's the point. I don't know what the answer is. What I'm going to tell you is that you have to figure it out. You can't give up, and there might be fits and starts. You might not get it right the first time. You can't give up on this. This is it. I mean, what are the stats? How many people have type 2 diabetes in America? Do you know it?
Oh my goodness. I haven't looked it up. I look it up yearly, like at the beginning of the year. I don't think I've even looked it up this year. I think it's like 270. I don't even know.
More than 37 million Americans have diabetes. About 1 in 10, and approximately 90 to 95% of them have type 2. Type 2 diabetes most often develops in people over 45, but more and more children, teens, and young adults are also developing it. This is the CDC. What causes type 2 diabetes? Insulin is a hormone made by your pancreas that acts like a key to let blood sugar into the cells in your body for use as energy. If you have type 2 diabetes, cells don't respond normally to insulin. This is called insulin resistance. Your pancreas makes more insulin to try to get cells to respond. Eventually, your pancreas can't keep up. Your blood sugar rises, setting the stage for prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. High blood sugar is damaging to the body and can cause other serious health problems such as heart disease, vision loss, and kidney disease. So, don't buy the jelly beans. Don't
buy the jelly beans.
I mean, that's what I read. What I read was keep the $9, don't buy the jelly beans.
Yes, there you go.
Anyway, okay. Jenny, is there anything I left out? Should we have said anything?
I don't know. I mean, we're talking about nutrition here, so I could probably go on for 2 more hours, but
well, okay. I'll tell you what, towards the end of this series, why don't we do that? Why don't we jump back on and you just talk to me like you're helping me, and I will listen, and it'll be there for people if they want it then.
You think I'll convince you to eat green beans?
I mean, not French cut.
Probably not.
Maybe, wait, if French is the thin ones, right?
Yeah, they're the weird ones. Yeah. I won't even eat French green beans.
See, maybe I could try the other ones. Although I can feel them soft crunching in my mouth right now.
We won't talk about green beans in that. Okay.
And then the little beans come out of the middle, and I'm like, "What is that?" All right. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. I want to thank Jenny for coming over today and talking about type 2 diabetes with me, and thank you for listening. I also want to thank Dexcom, makers of the Dexcom G6 and Dexcom G7 continuous glucose monitoring systems. Dexcom.com/juicebox. I'd also like to thank the Contour line of blood glucose meters. ContourNext.com/juicebox. Go check out that brand new Contour Next Gen blood glucose meter. There are links in the show notes and links at juiceboxpodcast.com to Dexcom, Contour, and all the sponsors. When you click on the links, you're supporting the show. And don't forget, if you've missed any part of the Diabetes Pro Tips series for type 2 diabetes, you can find them at juiceboxpodcast.com or in our private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast Type 1 Diabetes. But don't worry, all diabetes are welcome.